10 to 15 years ago, a partnerships function was expected to drive 5 to 10% of top line revenue for a company. Nowadays, it's not uncommon to be 30, 50, 70% contribution expectations.
And that's why we were so successful in driving 65% from partners at Bronto, was we gave so much business out to partners.
Let's just say I have two partner managers and they both have 50K quotas, right? But my quota is 150K.
70 to 90% of partner managers that try to make this happen, it goes this exact same way. All right, welcome back to Partnerships Unlocked, where we give you a front row seat to the strategies driving modern partner-led growth. Each episode, we're going to cut through the noise with hard-earned lessons from the leaders behind today's leading partner revenue channels. It's going to be fast, it's going to be tactical, and it's built for the operators that want to turn partnerships into a repeatable revenue machine. And today we have arguably one of the best operators building repeatable partner revenue machines, Mr. Chris Lavoie. So for the few folks listening that don't know who you are, can you please give a little bit of an introduction, tell them about your background in partnerships?
Yeah, of course. So born and raised in beautiful Nova Scotia, Canada on the East Coast. Um, Grew up as an academic, did a PhD in organic chemistry, and then on the doorstep of becoming a professor, basically went through a full quarter-life crisis meltdown, like a lot of people seem to do. And then somehow, some way found my way into the business world, first into consulting. Then one of my best buds was working at e-commerce ISV startup at the time called Gorgias. And he was able to get me an interview for their first ever tech partner manager job with this guy, Phil Royu, who now is CEO and founder at Concio. And I don't know how the heck I got that job. Lord knows I wasn't qualified for it, but that was my first big break into SaaS, tech, partnerships, biz dev. And it was the most incredibly challenging but fun and rewarding job I ever had. And I found a home. And so kind of spent years working up my ladder, getting into senior IC, management, leadership type roles. And then on the side, I was building this community, a coaching program called Partnership Mastermind. And then just recently, I've kind of gone full time on that to help scale it and help people around the world get the training they need.
And just because I think it's relevant for the conversation, can you give like a brief overview of like what exactly Partnership Mastermind does and what it seeks to teach folks?
Sure. Yeah. So the gap in the market that I saw was I said, look, because partnerships is not necessarily like a new type of role within a company, but it's kind of going through this like resurgence and it's becoming much more important. Whereas maybe 10 to 15 years ago, a partnerships function was expected to drive 5 to 10% of top line revenue for a company. Nowadays, it's not uncommon to be 30, 50, 70% contribution expectations. So that forces companies to hire a lot more people. It demands a lot more from its partnership employees, but there's a huge lag in terms of the requisite training, onboarding, ongoing training that is required to support that influx of more and more people to the workforce. I myself have lived that. As much as I love to teach and train, as a manager and as a departmental leader, it's really difficult to do everything in your job and provide that mentorship and training for your team. And so that's basically what the community is. It's an outsourced training and development and mentorship platform for your partnerships teams. So you don't have to actually do it because Lord knows it's a really challenging thing to do.
Yeah, fair enough. So, uh, what I heard for the audience is that you are a massive partnerships geek trying to build and create other partnerships geeks that do things the right way for scalable revenue. So that is a good segue into our first question, which is what is one partnerships play or strategy that you leveraged over the years that was just a massive unlock, huge win? Why do you think it worked, and what did you learn from it?
Yeah. So love these series of questions. My brain immediately goes to, my first foray into partnerships. And so for quick context, I joined Gorgias, first tech partner hire. Phil is like a legendary GTM operator and he's very intense. And he only believes in closed won sourced quota models, right? No matter what your role is, basically, right? You're always on closed won revenue quotas. My first ever quota was 40,000 ARR closed won per month, right? And I got zero ramp, so I didn't get any guaranteed OT, right? So it was like, welcome to the deep end. And so I only had a couple of tech partners that I could even start working with. And I quickly realized that they wouldn't even care to work with me unless I could deliver them major value first. And so I was coming in behind the 8 ball where I had to deliver value immediately. So to answer your specific question, what was one huge play? Step one was I obsessed over figuring out how to surface quality deals for those very short list of partners that I had at the time. Right. I didn't hit quota for the first few months. And I was very honest with Phil, like, Phil, everything I'm listening to, everything I'm hearing starting these conversations is I need to feed them first. And he's like, well, make it quick because you need to start getting pipeline back. So I obsessed for the first few months. 80% of my job was how to surface really quality referrals for my partners. I don't have time to get into exactly how I did that, or maybe we do, but I was able to figure that out. And I'm so glad that that was the first thing I ever figured out in partnerships. And then part two of this play that was a huge unlock was as soon as you know you're delivering that value, which you need to measure that, by the way, which is a separate thing. I immediately had to cash in and capitalize and force the partner's hand. I'm like, look, I just turned on the faucet for you. I'm sure you love the taste of this drink. If you want me to keep pouring these drinks, I need you to pay me back, right? Or it's all done, right? And so it was literally deliver a crap ton of value and then immediately capitalize on it, which meant making sure my partner's contacts, bosses and bosses' bosses knew that I was delivering this value. So they felt forced to kind of return the favor. So it sounds simple. I know this maybe sounds table stakes, but it actually works. So hopefully that's helpful for the audience.
No, I mean, look, everybody talks about give to get and everybody talks about delivering value to your partners. But again, I think it's just so much more important now than ever because we were in e everybody was in the last 10 to 15 years, we were all operating in dreamland. Everybody had money. Everybody was buying stuff. And now, like, it's all tightening, it's all contracting. And so partnership is gonna contract too, and everyone's gonna be trying to partner. And guess who your partners are gonna feed? They're gonna feed the partners that are feeding them, right?
Yep.
I am curious though. You did pique my curiosity. I don't know how long of a story this is. Maybe you can give us the abbreviated version. But how did you figure that out internally? Because I think this is something that a lot of partner leaders struggle with. I think they get it conceptually, right? You said it was obvious that they should be feeding their partners, but how to get that done internally is really a different beast. So if you have any tips or tricks for that, I think people would love to hear it.
Yeah, 100%. So this might be fairly technical, but I'll try to kind of slow it down. So the question is, hey, we know it's important to feed our partners and deliver them quality deals and offer material influence on their deals. Like, how do you actually do that? Well, I always focus on the who, right? Like companies don't just do things. Like I don't get a call from Klaviyo.com. It's like, hey, Chris, I have a referral from you. It's always from people. So taking that internally, who are the people who actually refer deals to your partners? It's customer success people, account managers, launch engineers, AEs. Okay, well, why don't you actually go sit down and talk to them for real and understand? And so I was struggling like mad to get any action from my customer facing reps to refer out to partners like a Klaviyo. And then I just simply asked them, like, hey, like, what is the big bottleneck here? Like, what, like, just cut to the chase. Like, why is this so difficult? And like, well, I have no idea when my customers might be interested in a given solution. Like, I have no idea when my customers are actually like actively in RFP or are searching for a specific point solution or a service partner. And I had this incredible light bulb moment where I was like, holy moly. I was like, that's it. Like, we need to take the work away from the customer facing reps to figure out when their customers are looking for solutions. And why don't we just ask our customers directly? And so this is really where the money is. And I promise if you pay attention to this, it actually will help. And you can hit me up for the actual playbook. So what we created was this Trojan Horse method. I call it the Customer Diagnostic Survey, where you strategically give your customers during onboarding, and you can give it to them ahead of an ongoing quarterly business review. It's like, hey, welcome to Gorgias. We're thrilled to have you as a customer. We're excited to kick off onboarding this week. If you can take 5 minutes and just complete this diagnostic form, it helps us better understand where you're at as a business and understand your growth goals in the coming year, right? This is where the beauty comes in. In that survey, we capture some normal information, but then we ask the questions around, hey, are you actively or will be actively reviewing any technology providers or service providers in the next 6 months? If so, yes. Like, if yes, which categories? What's your budget? Who is the key decision maker for this? And then the final question, and this is the money, I say, okay, you said you're looking for help. Are you open to talking with one of Gorgias's trusted partners? Just so you know, if you go through us, you're probably going to get a huge economic benefit of like 10 to 30% handheld treatment. Are you open to an intro? And here's the stats that will blow your mind. Of everyone we put the survey in front of, 33% completed it. But then of the 33% who completed the survey, over 70% said, yes, I'm interested in talking to a Gorgias partner. And we would get an automated Slack notification. I had a junior partner and manager on my team, basically like a BDR for partnerships, who would get that Slack notification, cross-reference the inputs to our partner directory, pinpoint the top 2 or 3 partners that was the best fit, and then engage the partner and ultimately make those referrals, right? And then voila, right? And then our CSMs were thrilled because now they look good, but they don't have to do any of the work. And now the customers don't feel harassed because it's like, well, you told us that you were looking for a new SMS marketing solution. Well, guess what? We integrate with a few of them. Let us introduce you. So I know that was a bit of a tangent, but by far and away, if you had to say what was the most powerful playbook you've ever built, that's got to be my top 2.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we got a twofer there because that was so incredibly valuable. The funny thing is, we did that at Bronto. That's the way I learned from Ryan Merton. We used to run customer surveys pretty much in the same way. It wasn't actually as technical as yours. Yours was set up better. Granted, I think it was probably about 5 or 6 years later there was better tools available, but it's the same. It was the same playbook, and that's why we were so successful in driving 65% from partners at Bronto. Was we gave so much business out to partners. So I'm really glad I asked that question because we're going to clip that, and that is one of the most valuable things I think that we could possibly share with folks. So thank you for sharing.
Amazing. Just
Cool.
best of customers. That's it, folks. It's crazy to believe. Just top tier partners.
Not rocket science, right? Um, that's beautiful. So let's flip it on the other side. What is a play that you ran that just really you had high hopes for it and it totally flopped? Just launchpad explosion or whatever. And why do you think it flopped? And what did you learn?
Yeah, man. I have an answer for sure, but there's so many epic failures. So I'm genuinely and real. Genuine in real time and thinking of it. Which one was the most epic of disasters? I think I'll go. It is a play. Like I'll reference a specific play, but that's not the headline. It's behind the scenes that is really the big mistake. So like the specific play I'll reference is the way I've tried to co-sell with tech partners. Like I've always worked at like ISVs themselves. Tech partner programs is where I cut my teeth. That's really where most of my skill set is. And, you typically do these like referral relationships, right? Which is not collaborative, right? A lot of people confuse referral relationships with co-sell. It's like, oh yeah, I co-sell all the time. I'm like, oh really? I'm like, do you actively collaborate with your partner's sales reps on actual deals? They're like, no. I'm like, well, you're referring, you're not co-selling. So I was always like, okay, referrals are great, but we have so much account overlap, right? Like with any given partner like Klaviyo, we have 5,000 mutual prospects and we have dozens of AEs working many, many of the same deals at the exact same time. I naively thought like, oh, if I just put AE from Klaviyo in a room with my AE and I say, hey guys or girls, you both are working 10 to 12 of the exact same accounts at the exact same time. Why don't you just collaborate? Right? And share intel and be buddies and like, back channel information and then close these deals together. I just couldn't believe how like I was like, I can't believe I have these insights from a tool like Crossbeam and I can figure out exactly who the rep is on the other side because of Crossbeam data. So I just thought if I was the matchmaker, magic would happen. But I can't tell you how many times I tried that or had my team try to do that and it just really never got stood up. I think there's a couple inherent challenges to that, which, not to get into the weeds, but like Klaviyo reps talking to marketing personas, my reps at Gorgias talking to more operations and customer support personas. So there's a bit of a mismatch there, but more importantly, the real failure on my part was I was always just trying to get buy-in from the actual ICs, either on the other side or on my side. But I didn't spend enough time and candidly didn't have enough skills and experience to go +1 or +2 levels to get alignment at the top so we could really implement this as a system, right? Not as just a one-off play. So what would happen is these AEs wouldn't respond to me, but then they'd message their boss. And then their boss would be like, oh, don't even worry about that. You don't have to respond to Chris. And then like, okay. So I just never got enough management and executive level alignment for a really aggressive play like co-selling with tech partners. So I would say that was the biggest failure. The co-selling with tech partners, not easy to do at all. Very few people do that well. But the real cause of this was I just wasn't good enough at getting the alignment top down to actually drive any action.
Yeah. I mean, that's also just such a good call out because I would say if I had to, put my finger in the air, I would guess 70 to 90% of partner managers that try to make this happen, it goes this exact same way. And I feel like that's being conservative. And that's absolutely the reason why. Because at the end of the day, like if the salespeople or the CSMs are not bought in, or sorry, let me rephrase that. If their executives are not bought in, and their leadership is not bought in, like this is gonna fall through. So that's I have nothing to add. That's just such a good one. And then I think last but not least, what are two or three things that you just wish you knew aside from those two things we discussed? What are three things you just wish you knew earlier in your partnerships career?
Yeah, certainly. So I think the last one definitely I would chuck in there, which is how important it is to get, relationships established and true trust built between other functional leaders. Even if you're at the IC level, it's still important to promote your visibility, promote your internal awareness, being a marketing advocate for your own self. And then at a more senior leadership position, you definitely need to invest in that much earlier. You've been a huge champion of that, Greg, on your LinkedIn content of just like you really can't succeed unless you really have those strong alliances cross functionally. So I think that's one of the key learnings. The other one that comes to my mind is, really leaning into owning bigger and bigger goals and just taking more of the ownership of the pie of driving impact. One of the biggest breakthroughs in my career that was painful was when I was promoted for the first time from senior IC to people manager at a team lead position. And I remember sitting down with Phil and he was showing me my quota, my team's quota. I'm like, wait, if I add up my individual contributors' quotas, right, it adds up to less than what quota you're giving me. So, like, let's just say I have two partner managers and they both have 50K quotas, right? But my quota is 150K. That didn't add up to me. And he's like, well, you think he's like, that's not how it works at the higher level you get to. I need you to own a bigger goal than the sum of your individual team members because I need them to outperform. Like, I need you to figure out how to outperform that. And my lesson here was I was afraid to take on bigger goals at the time because I wanted it all. I wanted a bigger title, I wanted more money, and I wanted to keep the goals relatively low. And he said, that's just not how it works. And he said, but I promise you, if you really just get comfortable taking on bigger goals, you'll learn that doing 80 to 90% of a much bigger goal is viewed much more significantly to the leadership than doing 130% consistently on these fluffy light goals. So he's like, who do you want to be? Do you want to be someone who is always kind of chasing the bar, or do you want to be someone who's comfortable, right? And that was the big breakthrough for me. And I started getting more comfortable chasing bigger and bigger goals. And it's amazing how much that unlocks your mind to really think creatively and work with an urgency that is required to achieve breakthrough outcomes, right? Versus if your quota never increases, you're never forced to really get out of your comfort zone and think differently. So that's probably the other big one I wish I had learned early is just to accept that that's how it works and that's the fastest way to grow and make a big impact.
I I think that that's a great note to end on, and I think that that's a great call out because not enough partner people initially are comfortable with that, right? Owning a number and owning a bigger number, but ultimately, like, it's kind of either we do, and then partnership starts getting taken more seriously and adopted more seriously because it consistently delivers, or we don't, and it keeps, to your point, being viewed as just kind of fluffy, just trying to coast. So I think that's a great call out.
Exactly.
Chris,
Last thing, sorry, real quick. Last thing I'll say on that, I promise, then I'll shut up because I know I've taken it over time. Is the last thing on that is there's a polarizing topic of like, what should quotas be for the traditional partner managers? Should it be influence? Should it be source? Should it be a mix of both, or even more higher top of funnel things? Phil is so insistent that it be closed won revenue for two reasons. A, you're matching the AE's quotas, so you'll gain way more respect from them, right? Because if your goals are like, how many conversations did I have this week? AEs aren't going to take you seriously. So it really helps drive sales alignment. But the other thing he said that I'll never forget is for every degree of separation your KPIs and quota is from cold hard cash hitting our company bank account, the harder it is to justify paying you more money. Right. And he's like, that's why AEs have the highest OTEs, right? There's no degrees of separation. They close a deal, boom, the company gets more money. So he's like, if you really want the big bucks, close one source revenue is the best way to do it because we can definitively pinpoint your impact. But every degree up the funnel that your KPIs are, candidly, you just can't justify making us money because you have to squint too hard to figure out the correlation. Anyways, just had to get that off my chest.
no, again, no disagreements. Like, I think that there is absolutely a value and a time and a place for things like influence,
Sure.
but that but that should always be icing on the cake. That should not be the cake itself.
Precisely.
Yeah. Chris, amazing. This has just been amazing. You and I are going to have another conversation, but thank you so much for coming with such amazing stories and points for folks to learn. And we're glad to have you on.
Likewise. This is a lot of fun, Greg. Thanks so much.
Awesome, brother. Thank you.